O'Leary and Company.
I'm going to be keeping you company for the next few hours.
You are not going to believe the company.
This company.
You're going to bankrupt your mama's company?
At least I have the radio to keep me company.
On 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
So here's my game plan. Here's my strategy, and here's my thought. And people are going to be mad at me about it. I get it. That's nothing new. But I have decided we're going with reverse psychology today. I'm not saying every song that we play, but the vast majority of them. We have today, we have tomorrow, and then we have Carb Day Friday, Parade Saturday, Race Sunday. And I get it. You don't talk about it in these parts. You don't analyze it. You don't overthink it, except for this. We're going to basically just celebrate rain for the next 48 hours. When I was a kid, I can recall, maybe not every time, but I know of at least one time I can vividly remember where I basically threw a tantrum. I was like 19. No, I'm kidding. I was a little kid, and I don't remember the reasoning for it, but I threw a tantrum. I kicked and fussed and whatever else. And my mom said, well, you might as well just get that out of your system. Go ahead. Fuss all you want. Get it out of your system. Make it a good one. Didn't get what I wanted out of it, but she was doing the reverse psychology of like making it acceptable. That's what we're going to do with the rain. Bring it on. Bring it on the next 2 days. Bring it on. Let's see how high we can raise the level of White River to the point where it doesn't actually do any damage to any people around it. Like, let's go. Get it out of your system, Mother Nature. And then we'll have one of those, and it does happen. It does happen. You get those years where you're like, at the end of the night, you're back home, you're watching the replay of the Indy 500, or you're watching the banquet the next night, and you are literally saying, I didn't think we'd get it in, but we did. 500 miles. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to hope for that, and we're going to hope for the best. And in terms of the strategy on how this can change things, again, we're not saying that the forecast isn't great, but in those races where there's that mind game that takes place, how does it impact the drivers themselves? And I was thinking last night, I was laying there last night, and I thought, you know what? I do wonder what it's like to know, because I ask it, and Christian Rasmussen is going to join us today, and he'll be one that will ask how much the strategy is impacted by knowing that it could be a fractured race or it could be a rain-shortened race. And knowing that, how does that impact the drivers, the approach, the aggressiveness, etc.? And I'm laying there last night, and I'm thinking about it. And I'm thinking, Johnny Rutherford had to go through a race in 1976 where I think Johnny Rutherford will tell you that he was pretty certain that A.J. Foyt might have had the better car. But he was in the lead. The reins opened up on 101, and voila, they were like, okay, man, you're the winner. Then there are those that it's late in the race, and you know that maybe it's on its way, but it wasn't, nobody knew for certain. How does that affect it? How does that impact it? And I thought, who would be a good person to talk about with that? Oh, Kanaan would be good, because Kanaan once was in the lead, and I recall vividly, not that I'm bitter about it. I love Dario Franchitti. Love him. Great dude. And a great driver, and a great ambassador for the sport. But I can vividly recall in 2007, it used to be that for the media, which is kind of funny now in hindsight, that this was presented, because there probably now would be some weird legalities to it. But for a period of time, Tag Heuer was the official, it still is, the official timepiece of the IndyCar series. But for a period of time, about a 3 or 4 year window there, they had a thing at the beginning on race morning where you could register and you had to write down who you thought were 1, 2, and 3. And if you got the top 3 correct, you won a Tag Heuer watch. There's actually a member of the Indy media that has one of those watches. But in 2007, I had it correct 1 through 3 when the rains came. And I'm a watch guy, so I was beyond geeked out that I was going to win one of the watches. And then they went back and got the race back going again. And so therefore, Dario Franchitti, who had cut a tire, worked his way back up to the front. He's the race winner. Kanaan, who was in the lead and would have won the race and would have won me a watch. That would have been the telltale, like, holy cow. But I'm not bitter about it. But I thought Kanaan would be a good person to talk to about the psychology of the weather impacting races, except for that he's busy with Aaron McLaren, and he probably wouldn't be thrilled about talking about that. Dario would be good, except for that Dario has won 3 Indy 500s. He happens to have never won the race under green. I don't think that he's necessarily upset about that, but you know, when you talk to him about it, he's like, yeah, it would have been nice to like have a duel in the end. So then I thought, what about Buddy Rice? Buddy Rice in 04, that was the race when basically tornadic conditions came through, and Donald Davidson said, if you can hear my voice, run for your lives. And I thought Buddy Rice would be good. So Buddy Rice is going to join us on the show today. And I want to thank yesterday, first off, Greg Raystroff for filling in. Caleb, you did not miss me, correct?
Not at all, actually. It was refreshing.
No one noticed I wasn't here. But I want to thank again, as always, every year, the American Dairy Association of Indiana for not only continuing the incredible tradition of the winners drink milk, sip of milk, which they now do for the IHSAA as well, which is very cool, but annually putting on the rookie luncheon and having myself and Derek Schultz work as the co-MCs of that event. It is always fun. It's a great event. And we had a lot of fun with it yesterday. You do a lunch, there's a milk toast. It's great. The thing yesterday that was kind of this elephant in the room, it's a little bit, I'm not going to say it was uncomfortable, but I didn't know how to play this. For years, this has always been the fastest rookie luncheon. They have all of the rookies there, but they honor the fastest rookie. The fastest rookie gets a prize. The fastest rookie gets a plaque. The fastest rookie gets their name on a trophy, etc. The fastest qualifying rookie. And in the years that I have done that luncheon, there have been a number of them that some went on to, become great drivers. Others, you look back and you're like, man, they were here like a year, and then, they kind of, I'm not going to say you forget about them, but they go on to different ventures. One of the traditions in the Indianapolis 500, and there's plenty to talk about today, by the way. Fever, we will get to. We'll get to the fact that, once again, James Harden shows why the Pacers would blitz their way through the East. I mean, there's a lot to get to here. But let me tell you the backstory on one of the new traditions at the Indy 500. And I think this is probably pretty well known at this point. But every year, the rookies go to the rookie luncheon, the entire rookie class. Sometimes there are 5, 6, 7 drivers. Sometimes there's 2. I recall the first year that I did it. I think it was one of the first years that we emceed the event. It was during COVID. It was Renus VK was the fastest rookie qualifier, but he was in a rookie class that included, I remember Oliver Askew being there. I think Pelot was there, I think. And everybody was on a Zoom. It was kind of weird. Understand, I understand that that's how it was in that era or in that period of time. But through the times that they've done the rookie luncheon, all of the rookies gather in the chalets at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway prior to the luncheon, and there's always a dairy cow on display. Last year's or yesterday's dairy cow was Bertha, by the way, from Purdue. And so everybody's gathering around, and they usually present the challenge to them somewhat jokingly or flippantly, like, who wants to milk the cow? And I don't know if he was the first to do so. Probably not. But one of the more high-profile cases of a rookie milking the cow was, I think, almost voluntarily for fun, in 2016, Alexander Rossi milked the cow. He was the fastest rookie qualifier. He was not an unknown by any stretch of the imagination. He had been in Formula One, but he was certainly the least hyped of his team going into that year's race. Qualified well, obviously, but wasn't one that a lot of people were talking about. But there were a lot of photos taken of the funny nature that this rookie from California, Alexander Rossi, was milking the cow at the rookie luncheon. He then went on to win the 100th running of the Indy 500 as a rookie. And so as a result of that, it has become now the ultimate good luck charm that you have to milk the cow as a rookie at the luncheon. And they did so yesterday, and they were great. The rookie class, Jacob Abel, Kyle Collette, Dennis Hauger, and Mick Schumacher, son of Michael Schumacher. Dennis Hauger is the Indy Next champion. Jacob Abel a year ago was bumped from the race, found his way back in this year, obviously with 33, but has done a good job. And, Mick Schumacher, his pedigree and his background with his father, Michael Schumacher, and Kyle Collette. Kyle Collette, who is from Brazil, ran in Indy Next, was the runner-up in the series to Dennis Hauger. And Kyle Collette was the fastest rookie qualifier on qualifying day. He finished inside of the top 12. He made it to the Fast 12. So he did the extra qualifying run. And he was a heck of a story. And he told me yesterday, he's like, man, it was hectic, that qualifying run. And then to know that I had to go back out and do it a second time, and we trimmed the car out a little bit, and et cetera. So a great job by Kyle Collette. But there was the infraction that then erased his time. So technically speaking, his speed is a 0.00, which means that Mick Schumacher has the fastest official time amongst qualifiers. So Mick Schumacher and not Kyle Collette was the fastest rookie qualifier, despite the fact that in actuality in the car, Kyle Collette was the faster of the two. So they honored all four. Mick Schumacher got he reaped the benefits of being the fastest among the rookie class. But all four of them were great, and it was fun yesterday and certainly enjoyed it. Also enjoyed last night. I did not. I was born in 1972. I know the history of the Beatles. I love the Beatles. We've had conversation on this show about how I love the Beatles. Mike Chappell loves the Beatles. Caleb, you do or don't like the Beatles?
Love them.
Your favorite Beatles song is what?
Probably Don't Let Me Down.
Nice. Okay. Which Beatle are you?
I would say maybe George Harrison.
Okay, that's cool. At this radio station, which Beatle am I? Or just in general, which Beatle am I?
I don't know. I would say John Lennon, maybe.
Because I'm the oldest? Is that it?
That's
no, John's
not what
older than I am.
Thinking. Yeah, that's not where I was going with it.
John's older than I am, right?
That's right.
But John's had the longer solo career than I, so that would make him McCartney. Is that what you're saying?
I can get with that.
But either way, when the Beatles came to Indianapolis in 64, you all know the story. And there's a reason I'm mentioning this. There's a reason I'm mentioning it. We have our own Beetle Mania in Indianapolis in two extents. One, an athlete that is rooted in Indianapolis. The other one that lives here and only performs here periodically. One you know about. Caitlin Clark, who is now, we know officially, the Grand Marshal of the Indianapolis 500. No surprise whatsoever, considering her personal connection to Gamebridge, and not to mention the fact that Caitlin Clark is, right now, you could make the argument, and I know Tyrese Halliburton certainly last spring had his own to say about this, but you could make the argument that Caitlin Clark is the most famous athlete currently playing professionally in Indianapolis, at least within the United States. Halliburton would be more internationally famous because the NBA is a bigger brand than the WNBA. But in terms of within the United States, you could say Caitlin Clark because she was a bigger star in college and was on the map longer. There was more anticipation about her. But she is the Grand Marshal for the Indy 500. She will be, there is a Beatlemania presence about her. I've seen it at the Fieldhouse. When I'm at Pacer games and Caitlin Clark comes through, you can see, the security and the buzz around her. In 1964, the Beatles came to Indianapolis. They were introduced in their two respective concerts at the Indiana State Fairgrounds by Bouncin' Bill Baker and Jerry Baker. They did one outdoor show on the main stage of the State Fairgrounds. They did one inside the Coliseum. And they were to stay at a downtown Indianapolis hotel, and word got out where they were staying, and so in lieu of staying there, they basically sneaked them. Is it sneaked them or snuck them? It's sneaked them, correct?
I was gonna say snuck. That's what I would go with.
I think it's sneaked.
Okay.
Can you look up for me, please? Past tense form of sneak. I agree that snuck sounds better, but I think it's sneaked, which is weird. But either way.
Either are acceptable.
Either? So they snuck the Beatles. Which one's the British term? What do the Brits say?
They snuck the Beatles.
I believe they snuck them on 16th Street just past, and the Beatles stayed out west. So they stayed out at the Speedway Motel, which is no longer there, but it's right there just off of turn number 2, the old Speedway Motel. That's where the Beatles stayed. That's where they got the pace car ride. Ringo Starr got a pace car ride and talked about how much he loved it. And that's where they got up in the morning and did the goofy photo shoot at the putting greens of the Brickyard Crossing. And they had no idea how to hold their golf clubs, so they made sport of it. And the word got out that the Beatles stayed at the Speedway Motel. And that's when, as legend has it, the Lennon staff, not John Lennon, but L-I-N-E-N, the Lennon staff at the Brickyard Cross, or at the Speedway Motel, cut up the bed sheets where the Beatles stayed and sold them. Allegedly. So you could buy, like, hey, this was a bed sheet used by the Beatles. So there was a Beatle mania factor about, obviously, you see that amongst players now and certain just it factors. And I know in this town where I've seen it. Indianapolis is a unique place to me because we don't necessarily, I've mentioned this before. When I worked in St. Louis, Mark McGuire couldn't go to the grocery store. He couldn't do anything without being absolutely mobbed, even though people saw him all the time. Kurt Warner, the same. And in Indianapolis, it's a little bit unique because I remember when Reggie was first breaking through and going out in Broad Ripple and seeing Reggie Miller with his wife, his then wife, like walking down Broad Ripple Avenue, going to bars, and like people would high-five him or say hi to him, but no one mobbed him. It was like, there's Reggie. He was just one of us. I remember being in Pato on the day that Peyton Manning had won his Most Valuable Player award. I was off. I've told the story before. I was off from work, had the day off. I was working at Channel 6, and I'm sitting there in Pato, and we had suspected that the NFL MVP award was going to be named, but it was different back then. It wasn't like they do it on some big show, 8 o'clock tonight, we award it, whatever else. And it was like, hey, I think there's going to be a presser because Manning's going to be named MVP, but I was off. It was my day off. So I'm in Pato eating, and in comes Peyton Manning with his parents and with his wife, Ashley. And I was like the only person in there because it was later in the day. It was like 1:30, right before they closed. So he comes walking in. We make eye contact, and so he says hello. I didn't, to say that I'm like buddies with them was disingenuous, but I covered him literally 3 times a week, right? So he walks over. This is when I knew that Peyton Manning was a completely different breed. This is when I knew that Peyton Manning was different than any athlete, and there was the computing processing form of Peyton Manning was different than anybody I'd ever been around. He comes walking over. And keep in mind at this time, this was in 2000, probably 4, 5, somewhere in there. And so you had 6, 8, 13, and 59. You had, in addition to that, probably 3 sportscasters at each television station, and each television station had a designated 2 sports photographers. So there was a regular contingency of probably somewhere between 16 to 23, 24 different people that every Monday we're at Manning's locker for availability. Every Wednesday we're at his locker for availability. Every Sunday we're at his locker after every game. And not always the same people. Obviously, coworkers, it varies on who's there, depending on what day. But either way, I'm sitting there. Manning walks in, and I say, "Oh, I was off today. I know that they were possibly going to do the MVP thing. have you heard on that yet? And he said, well, yeah, I already did the media for it. It was announced this morning. And I said, okay, great. And then I said, I'm hoping that our station was there. And he literally looked right at me and goes, yeah, I mean, I know Will was there and he had Otis photographer with him. So he not only knew what television station I worked for, he knew one of the 3 other sportscasters with that particular station and which photographer was assigned specifically to that station, as opposed to Rob Lynch or Dave Hodge or, Ivan Gratz or whoever else from a different television station. He knew that right there, and I'm like, this dude is just different. But even with that, when Manning came into Patachou, and there wasn't a lot of people there, but I was in different places where I would see him in a public setting, and people were like, oh, there's Peyton. But it was like everyone knew him, as opposed to there was this Beetle mania about it. There's a Beetle mania with Caitlin Clark, where when she goes places, and I understand it for her safety because of things that she's already gone through. I totally understand why. But there's a security entourage around her for the most part. And I saw it yesterday again. And it's the first time that I've been reminded of this since a year ago when it happened. We did and I want to thank again Arrow McLaren and Mission Foods for having me out to work alongside and promote and have fun with the Pato O'Ward appearance at the Crawfordsville Road Speedway Kroger. So Pato O'Ward, I got there at about 3:45. Pato O'Ward was set to arrive at 5, which he arrived right on time at 5 o'clock. There was already a line through the Kroger from the area where they had the table set up through the grocery store, all the way around the grocery store to the parking lot of the Speedway Shopping Plaza or Shopping Center, whichever it's called. And that was 2 hours before he was to get there, an hour and a half before he was to get there. He arrived, signed autographs, did a great job, took pictures, confirmed on the air that JMV's 2 shirts that he bought, Arrow McLaren shirts with Pato O'Ward's name stitched in the tag, are in fact team-issued shirts from Pato O'Ward that Pato O'Ward had taken to Goodwill, which is incredible. But all of that, he sat there, did all of that, was great to people. And then it was time for him to go at 6 o'clock. And there were still, and they do this every year I'm saying in a good way, they let people know by like 5:30, hey, if you're at this point or further back in line, you're probably not going to get up there in time. So Pato already signed a bunch of these little cards, and we're going to hand those out. You don't get to meet him, but you still get an autograph, which is cool. All of those people that got that, and everybody was fine with that. Everybody understood, and it was a great crowd. Great people. All of them sat there inside the produce section at Kroger, and when Pato O'Ward had to leave, he could not go through the throng of fans that were between the produce section and the exit. So they had a detail of people that got him up. He waved to everybody. He then went along the back way through the grocery store where they were planning for him to go down through one way and then down an aisle to circumvent, wrap around to then go out and exit. This throng of people, it had to have been 75 people. This throng of people notices that, and now they're running along the front of the aisles at the front of the store, just running along. I mean, it literally looked like some sort of a water clock of these people running from aisle to aisle, going back and forth, back and forth. There's like a bait and switch. And O'Ward, you could tell, I mean, he's kind of smiling and waving, but he's a little bit uncomfortable as well because there's the perception that he's like deceiving these people or trying to go away from them, and they're his fan base, right? But people just to see a glimpse of him, it was amazing to me. Maybe I take it for granted because I'm at every single racetrack and I'm around Pato O'Ward. But I also think that part of it's threefold. Number one, the guy is an unbelievable talent. Number two, he has a gregarious, magnetic personality that you don't often see, and it comes along like once in a generation sometimes in athletes, somebody that just has this larger-than-life persona. And he has a larger-than-life persona. And then, in addition to that, and I understand, IndyCar racing is at a point now where it is a niche sport. It is a niche sport that probably does not, in the non-month of May months, get the attention or generate the discussion or the interest level that it should. And in addition to that, none of the drivers have the charisma of an award, at least publicly speaking, just in terms of like this aura. I can't explain it. It's an aura. It's an energy. It's a vibe. But more so, and being in that, and why I truly commend Arrow McLaren and Mission Foods for doing it every year at that Kroger. I mean, let's be real here. Pato O'Ward was born in Monterrey, Mexico. His family moved to Texas. He went to high school in San Antonio, but he still he proudly wears the Mexican flag like on his helmet or on different adornments of his fire suit, etc. And he represents to a group of people a connection. He represents to people an identity of, I can relate to Pato O'Ward because he grew up in the same area as I. He has the same ethnicity as I. He understands. Pato O'Ward is a driver that was bounced from the Indy 500 in his first year. He didn't make the field. He was bumped. He was with Carlin Racing, and then he went to Europe in a Formula One Red Bull sponsorship, and that didn't work out, and he came back here. So he has had to overcome adversities and obstacles, and to a great majority of the people that I was watching yesterday, they feel a connection to him. He represents them. He's more than a race car driver of, I like his color scheme, or I like his sponsor, or I like his number. I like his story, is what people that are there are saying. I like his story. And that created a Beetle mania that I had forgotten about to an extent from a year ago. But the beauty of it, and you don't see it often in sport, is that for the majority of those people, it wasn't even about Pato O'Ward, the athlete. It was about Pato O'Ward, the person, because they themselves, living on the west side of Indianapolis, or for whatever reason it may be, whether it is that they are of the same ethnicity, whether it is they are of the same adversity, there were a number of people there that I could tell that this was a glimmer of optimism, hope, and success that they feel a part of, and that you cannot put a price tag on that. And it was awesome to witness it. And I thank everybody that put it on yesterday, and Pato O'Ward also, for understanding and appreciating it. And in addition to that, we have been asked, and I don't know when our deadline is on this, to record who we think is going to win the race. And Pato O'Ward is one of them. I have like three that I keep going back and forth on, and Pato O'Ward is one of them, absolutely, that is in the forefront of my mind there with that. But there's an aura about him. There's an aura about Caitlin Clark. We'll get into that. Fever in action tonight. As a matter of fact, they're taking on the Fire, 7 o'clock. Pregame can be heard at 6:30 over on our sister station, WIBC. As for Pato O'Ward and the other drivers in the Indy 500, as I mentioned, Christian Rasmussen today, Buddy Rice coming up in about 30 minutes. We'll talk some basketball today as well. But Pato O'Ward, if I'm not mistaken, is one of the drivers that we have already given away in our esteemed and illustrious numbers game. We did. Steve got Pato O'Ward. But we're going to do numbers on the other side. We got to give some numbers away today, tomorrow. I'd like to get it done before Carb Day, because Carb Day is going to be kind of crazy. But here are the numbers that have been taken. So if you're calling in right now at 239-1070, 239-1070, we'll do numbers in just a minute, and here's how it works. The following numbers have been taken: 3, 6, 9, 14, 22, 23, 24, 26, 29, and 31. Those numbers are taken. If you were thinking about them, pick a different number. You give me a number, I give you the driver assigned to that number. If you get the winner of the Indy 500, I will get you an IMS hat. I'll get you a gift card to Chicago's Pizza. I'll also get you a hero card from that driver thanking you for being part of the company. And that will be the envy of all your friends. Not just because of the autograph, but because they're going to know you're part of Aquarian Company. Then, whether you have the first out or the driver that moves the most positions in the field after the race is complete, you also will win. That tiebreaker being he or she which starts the furthest back. 239-1070, numbers other side. Buddy Rice in a half an hour. Hey, there's Jake Query for Surfside. Look for the can with the sunset stripe. Surfside is oh so easy to enjoy because no carbonation means no bubbles and oh so smooth. Just 100 calories, 2 grams of sugar, iced tea with a splash of vodka, lemonade with a splash of vodka, and now super light. 4 different great flavors of the sports drink from Surfside, perfect for the summer months. Surfside, look for it wherever you buy your favorite adult beverages. Please be 21 and please consume responsibly.
You're listening to Query and Company on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
See, it's a strategy here. It's just reverse psychology. Bring it. Bring the rain. Next 48 hours, man. Just bleed that baby dry. Get all the rain out of there, and then we're good to go. Carb day, JMV's experience being out there. I'm telling you, one of my favorite days of the – 2 things I love about the Indy 500 that have nothing to do with the race itself. I love, and I'm using the word love here, like in the Robert, Indiana sculpture out in front of Newfields. Love that big and that famously. I love the parade. I do, every year. I love it. And then I love the night of the parade when Shannon and I go and just walk maybe 20 minutes up and down Georgetown or over in the area and just see the calm before the storm and just know that you're going to see something the next day that's special and just soaking it all in and knowing that all the work is done. I love that, everything that goes into the race, all the work is done by Saturday night, and it's the best. And I appreciate everybody's patience in hearing me probably blab about it because I love the race. I love talking about it. I love everything about it. All right. We got callers lined up. Daniel, Rick, James, Casey, and Greg. Which one are we leading off with here, Caleb?
Let's do Casey.
Casey at the bat. What's up, Casey?
What's up, Jake? How are you, man?
I'm all right. Yourself?
Not too bad.
Casey,
Ready for the race, just like you.
When you go out around public or, when you meet new people, do they more often reference to you Sean Casey, Casey at the bat, or Casey and the Sunshine Band?
I would say the latter two. I'd say Casey at the bat and Casey and the Sunshine Band are the two.
I would imagine. Okay, Casey, what
Funny,
number would you like?
I just said that to your producer. Let's go. Is 15 available?
15 is available. Casey,
Let's do
did you
15.
say you're going to the race?
No, we actually go camping for the race, have a big race party, but I've gone to the race for the last 10 years prior to that.
Now, here's a big trivia question for you, Casey. When you're camping, do you listen to the race on the radio?
Yes, it's on in the background, but it's on a TV as well.
Okay, well, that's a very good answer. No problem with that. Okay, Casey, on a 1 to 10 scale, 10 being the most, 1 being the least, how much do you avidly follow the Indy 500?
I would say a 9.
Okay. You got a guy that a
Month of
year
May,
ago.
That's all I think is all I talk about.
This guy a year ago, I thought I picked him as not a winner, but I was like, he has a chance. I thought he had like an R.A. Leyendyke feel about him, where his first oval win could come in the Indianapolis 500 because he was fast and just steady. He is also, here's a good trivia question for you. He is the most recent winner in the NTT IndyCar Series. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Oh, my gosh.
He won the Grand Prix.
Oh, no, I can't remember his name.
If you worked security for somebody who was in a mental institution and one flew over the cuckoo's nest, what would your job be? Your job would be this guy's last name, Lundgaard. Christian Lundgaard is off the board. All right, Daniel's up next. Daniel, what's up?
Hi, Jake.
Daniel, you sound like a nice guy. Have we met before?
We have met before, Jake.
Was I a nice guy or was I rude?
Oh, Jake, you're always a blast to be around. Appreciate you.
Okay. I don't know that I believe this, Daniel. I think you're hoping for a good driver here. Okay. Daniel, what number would you like?
Let's go 13.
13. Daniel, you got – okay, let me ask you this, Daniel. When you were a kid, did you ever go see Santa Claus like at the mall or anything like that?
Oh, yeah.
Santa would usually have an assistant with him with a cute little green hat. And those people also make Keebler cookies. Do you know what you call those people?
I got the elf.
Yep. Well, you didn't get it. You didn't get an elf. You didn't get an elf. You got the driver who has elf as a sponsorship. Catherine Legg goes to Daniel. Daniel gets Catherine Legg. Rick is up next. Hi, Rick. How are you?
Hi. I'm doing great.
Rick, how are things at the bottom of the ocean?
Well, I'm trying to keep you on the line here. I pulled over, but I was driving.
Well, safety first, Rick. We appreciate that, and believe you me, no one appreciates that the last week more than I do. Okay, Rick, what number would you like?
I missed the first part of the recap. Is 2 available?
2 is available. Rick, how many 500s have you attended, Rick?
This will be my 30th.
Really? Okay. Who's your favorite driver?
Used to be Dan Weldon, but most recently probably Rossi or Pato.
Okay. Nothing wrong with that. Are you on a cell phone right now?
I am, yeah.
What's your battery looking like on your cell phone?
Well, it was pretty good, but I don't know.
Well, it's going to be even better now because I'm about to give you power. Willpower off the board to Rick. James is up next. Hi, James. How are you?
Doing well, Jake. How we doing?
You know what? I can't complain. It's going to dry up, James. I'm confident of this, okay? We're going to talk our way through.
I needed to. I'm out changing semi-tires, so I've been wet for 3 days straight.
Really? You just roll around looking for guys with flats? How does that work?
Well, they call into Goodyear, and I show up.
Okay. So do you work for Goodyear, or you work for like an auxiliary offshoot of it?
It's Gem City Tire Goodyear.
Okay, fair enough. All right, what number would you like?
I'm hoping 19's available.
So if you have a day where you've got to work, like a year where you work 364 consecutive days, do you consider that a bad year for Goodyear or a good year for Goodyear? Which way does that go?
That's hilarious. That's a good year.
Okay, fair enough. What number did you say again?
19, if you got it.
Ooh, James. How many times you been to the race, James? You a fan?
Big fan. I've only been once. I tried all week last week to win tickets.
Who's your favorite driver?
Ed Carpenter.
Okay, nothing wrong with that, man. I love Ed Carpenter. But you got a guy that's one of the big ones, man, and his name, there's just something about the way I get to say his name when I'm calling the turns. I love saying it. You got Elio Castroneves. All right, we'll go one more here. One more in this round of number giveaway. Caleb, who do we have?
Let's go with Greg.
You sounded reluctant there, Caleb. Is something
Well,
wrong with
it's a tough
Greg?
call. I don't want to disappoint anybody that's hoping to get on.
Greg, what's up?
Yeah. Hey, not much, Jake. How are you?
I'm good. Caleb sounded disappointed. You didn't make Caleb upset, did you? That like when you called him?
I was gonna say, wow, man, I feel dissed a little bit.
Yeah, no. Greg, you sound like a nice fella. Have you called the show before?
Yes, yes, I have.
Okay.
Yes, I have.
And what line of work are you in, Greg?
I just recently retired a year ago. So,
Really?
Yeah.
How's retirement going? You watching a lot of that Price is Right?
Yeah. And let's make a deal. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's like every day is like being homesick from school, right? It's great. Until about 1 o'clock when, like, As the World Turns comes on, you're like, this sucks. I'd rather be back at class. All right, Greg, what number would you like?
If 29's available, I'll take that.
29 is not available. I got 30, 32, 33, 28, 27, 25. You can stop me anytime. 21, 20, 18, 17.
Yeah, number 10. Number 10.
Number 10 is available, Greg. And you got the teammate of Elio Castroneves. You got Marcus Armstrong. Marcus Armstrong. See, that's how we do the numbers game. We will continue doing it over the course of today. Buddy Rice in 18. But when we come back, what is it that perhaps is holding back what we thought would be moving with more acceleration at this point in Indy sports, and it has nothing to do with 16th and Georgetown? I'll tell you other side.
Query and Company on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
So I understand the skepticism. I understand the frustration. And what I'm talking about is coming off of last year, there was so much expectation. There was so much promise and hope about the Fever season. And I mean, they're only 4 games in. I'm not sitting here saying that. You know what I mean? So, but when you start out and you know about the dynamic of Caitlin Clark coming back, adding to that the dynamic of what you had in a team that got into the, deep into the playoffs a year ago. And the level of excitement that created, especially when you consider, as we talked about, the attrition they went through and yet still just kept replacing pieces. And you knew that Kelsey Mitchell's coming back and you get Leah Boston back and Cunningham is obviously so important to them, all of it. And then you add Caitlin Clark to that mix, right? And so to be 2-2, I had someone yesterday say to me, they're like, I'm hearing all this stuff about the Fever nonstop, and yet, they're 2-2. I thought they were going to be, the best team in the league. Let's go back to what happened last night in the Eastern Conference playoffs. Caleb, you watched the game. You're a Cavs fan. What was and I'm not saying you're going to be wrong if you don't go with the answer that I'm trying to lead you towards here, but in your opinion, what was the schematic difference that New York seized that allowed them that 44-11 run?
I don't know why it took them so long to just put James Harden in the pick and roll, get the switch, and have Brunson just go right at him. I honestly, as confounding as it was for Cleveland and how they gave that up, I don't know how New York didn't start doing that from the beginning of the game. And I think that's what they finally found some offensive rhythm after they started doing that.
They found the defensive liability, and they attacked it. And listen, I know that James Harden is an elite, historically speaking, an elite level NBA player. I get it. I have nothing against James Harden. He is a fabulous player to watch. He has great court vision, and he has the most unorthodox, least guy that you would expect that is a, just an absolute marksman, sharpshooter, lightning in a bottle guy. I mean, he steps back and hits a shot and makes it look easy over the course of his career. But he is, to me, wildly inconsistent, number one. And number two, and this is the biggest thing, he is a total defensive liability, not only because he's not a great defender, but more importantly, because he has no seeming interest in it. None. And that defense is I go back to when I was a student in high school, and I was a total slacker. I was an underachiever. I was the king of the 2.2 grade point average. And my dad once, was kind of lecturing me about it. And I said, Dad, when I get to college, trust me, it's no problem. I'll be a really good student. And my dad said, Jake, you don't turn habits like that. Habits are called that for a reason, and it's very hard to break them. And you've set yourself up now where you don't just turn that page and flip that switch. And I think the same can be true and can be said of the way that you defend. If you are not a great defender by nature and you have just kind of, your offense has been your best defense, then all of a sudden you just naturally speaking, you can say maybe you go through stretches or small periods where you're defensively locked in, but it doesn't last very long. You eventually revert back to who you are, the authentic nature of who and how you play. And I think that Harden is a good example of that. But if you look at the Fever right now through 2 games, and yes, I get the fact that they played some very good offensive players, but defensively in the backcourt as a group, they have been abysmal. If you look at the 2 games where they have lost, they are allowing 57.5% from the floor. They are allowing a high number of threes to be attempted, number one, and in the case of Dallas, to be made, number two, at a high percentage. That is not going to win you games. It's great that they've had 100-point games, and we know that they have offensive firepower. And I'm not saying that they have James Hardens all over the place, but they, right now, are at 500 because defensively, they're a liability. In those two games, they defensively are not getting it done, period. They just aren't. You cannot, the old Bobby Knight line. Look, I think Steve Alford's a great player, but if I lock him in a room with a Pepsi machine and come back an hour later, the Pepsi machine probably has found its way out of the room. Or when my friend Sally Nicely in 1985 called in the Bob Knight show and said, how does Steve Alford keep his hair so perfect? And Bob Knight said, probably because he's patting it down on defense. It's great to be a great offensive player, but you got to play on both sides. And I'm not saying Caitlin Clark's not a great defensive player, or Kelsey Mitchell's not a great defensive player, or that they don't have it within them, right? I'm not saying that. But their team defense to this point has been less than ideal. And they are not guarding, in particular, on the perimeter. They're not either reversing, they're not getting over to collapse on the perimeter, and that is allowing and facilitating for shots to be made that are at a clip that they, even as good as they are offensively, they can't keep up with. I don't think it's going to take a ton. With the way they can score, they don't need to all of a sudden become the bad boy Pistons defensively. They don't need to become, this elite lockdown on every possession defense, but defensive competency needs to become something that has more frequency to it when they're out there, or else you can't. It is difficult to win games by simply going out and out 100ing people, if that makes sense. That's a recipe for, it's fun to live by that sword, but it's very easy to fall on it as well. And they've got to make adjustments defensively, just flat out do. Buddy Rice, what does it mean when you're running the Indy 500 and you've got your fuel map in one part of your brain and the weather map on the other? And Buddy Rice is one cool dude. We'll talk to him next.
You're listening to Query and Company on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
That was back in 2004 when our next guest of the program took the swig of milk and did so kind of underneath the Tower Terrace in one of the Formula One garages. It was one of the more bizarre victory lanes, but I'm sure he probably in the moment did not care. He joins us now on the program, Buddy Rice from Arizona, where I am sure things are sunnier than they were that day in Indianapolis. Buddy, how are you?
I'm doing great. They are nice and sunny here.
But are you in Phoenix? What part of Arizona do you call home?
Actually, I'm just a little bit further outside right now in Fountain Hills.
Okay. And so obviously you grew up in the Phoenix area. When you hear back to that call from 2004, I want to go back to that first and foremost. Overwhelmingly, and look, you had obviously a great car that day. I mean, you were the pole sitter. You fell back. You worked your way back up in that race itself. But what are the things that you most recall from that 04 Indy 500?
I would say two things. One is obviously the rain, because obviously we started late. We got going, we stopped, we got going, and then obviously it stopped early. But, I mean, that's probably one of the biggest things. And I think the second is when we had our little hiccup in the pits, and, Scott Remke and those guys all, had a game plan of what we were going to go do. No one panicked, and we all just came back through, did what we were supposed to do, and were able to drive back through with everything, with the weather coming.
Okay, I hate to say this, buddy. You know how it is in Indy, right? When the forecast isn't great, we kind of don't talk about it. We pretend it's not there, but it is. So I am curious from your experience and standpoint, what did it do psychologically as a driver to have a race that was fractured like that and to know that you're constantly chasing it and wondering when it's going to happen, if you will?
I guess I would say for me, it wasn't that big of a deal. I mean, obviously you get into your routine and your game plan, but I think with all the different types of racing and training and everything I've done it, and I'm not super regimented on my routine, that it wasn't that big of a deal. Obviously, you always got to be prepared and stay ready, but I think that was the biggest thing. It really wasn't, I don't think it was a big thing. I mean, obviously the waiting, I think in between the start and then we stopped and then waiting for it to get going in was something odd. You said, keep yourself occupied and try to just stay in the moment and be ready. But I think that wasn't really that big of a deal for me.
From a driving standpoint, and for you, it was probably, somewhat irrelevant because, like I said, I think, clearly you had the fastest car in the field. I mean, we know that, right? And it was a great car, and you drove it masterfully in that race. But when you have a race going into it where it may not go 200 laps, how do you work the information that the team is getting in terms of trying to take the gamble on? In other words, does it change when you stop, when you pit, what your sequences are, how long your stints are? How much does an inconsistent forecast alter the strategy going into the race? How much thought is put into that?
Well, again, I think like a lot of people, I left it up to the strategist, Todd Poland, my engineers. Scott Remke was also the lead strategist on that deal. Those guys had to deal with it. And I mean, it's like a lot of your guys are back there. It doesn't look like there's going to be anything. And then all of a sudden a cell pops up. And that's really what happened late in the race. Yeah, we'd had rain on and off all day or whatever had been around us, but there wasn't anything. And then I don't know exactly at what point, but they obviously got notification because they're watching, and all those teams now, I mean, they got so much technology information. They can see it all coming at live time. But once it popped up, then they had to start changing their strategy because they knew that cell was coming and we're going to make it to the end. We knew it was late in the day, so it wasn't going to we weren't going to stop it and fire up and go again. So that kind of changed everything. And I think it was Bruno Junqueira and the guys at Haas, Newman Haas, they tried to stretch it to make it to the rain, and that didn't happen. But I mean, still, we only were going to have another stop or so to go, and it was going to be over anyway. So I think I don't think it changed that much, but it made it exciting. But once those guys saw that coming, I think they had to adjust to see what they needed to do, and they were the ones timing it all out. I just kept doing what I was doing in the seat, just worried about what I can control.
Buddy Rice is my guest. He is the 2004 Indy 500 champion. Buddy, I'm going to go back to, and you would not remember this, but I recall when you won the race, I was working at Channel 6 at the time, and I went back into the media center well after the race. It was, it was kind of crazy because, like, the skies were green and it was pouring, and they, Tom Blattler, who was your PR guy, was bringing you up into the media center to do the press conference or whatnot. And I bumped into you guys, I remember, and I remember saying to you, man, like, your life has changed now because you just won the Indy 500. And you said to me, I'll never forget this, you said, nah, I'm just a different dude, man. Like, I don't know that my life's probably going to be pretty much the same. I'm just a different dude. And I think that has held true. You just seem to be one that you just kind of had this easygoing nature about you, right? Did the Indy 500, in fact, now, 22 years later when you look back on it, how is your life, if at all, different from winning the Indy 500?
I mean, I'm sure there's been perks and things that have happened, but I still do and approach everything the same way. I haven't changed anything. So for me, I don't try to let that change. I just try to be myself and just keep doing what I do. So that's just kind of how I see it. I mean, it's super awesome, and I really appreciate it. And it was a great day, and a lot of hard work went into everybody there with Ray Hall and Pioneer and Argent and Honda and Firestone and everybody there. But on the grand scale of things, no, I don't think. I mean, sometimes I guess certain people look at it differently, but I keep going about it the same way as I always have.
Well, every 500 winner got that blue sport coat. It's kind of like the IMS's, Roger Penske came up with this. It's kind of like the Masters green jacket. You get the blue jacket, and they do the photos and everything else. And every photo I've ever seen of you, you're wearing a flat brim hat and like skater shoes. How often do you actually wear the blue sport coat?
It's only for the track. So I only did it the one time. The only time I was there, those guys, you showed up for the very first one, and that's the only time I've worn it.
Okay. Now, is it hang? Do you know exactly where it's hanging? Is it one of those things where you're like, oh gosh, I got to find it? I mean, you don't again, you're not a sport coat guy, right?
No, I'm not a sport coat guy.
So do you know where the sport coat is?
Yeah, it sits at the Speedway. They're
at the Speedway. Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you guys were giving it, and then you just had to bring it back. Okay, my apologies.
Oh, no. They keep them all there for us. So if you show up, you can go get it or whatever. I've been there. But I only work for the one photo, and that's it. Okay, sorry. I thought for some reason I thought you guys were given that. The other day when I reached out to you and was like, hey, do you want to come on the show? And I did not realize this. My apologies. I thought it was kind of fascinating. You're like, yeah, man, I'm flying right now over to Europe. I was thinking that you were already there. What was it in terms of Buddy Rice's life today and your responsibilities that had you over in Europe? One of the kids I work with was running over in the Nürburgring in a Carrera Cup car. I got 5 kids I work with managing their racing careers, and then I do we have a 4-car team in Lamborghini Super Trofeo with 47 Motorsports. I work for those guys as well, and I just do a little bit of consulting on the side or whatever with different race teams.
Do you ever see?
I like working with kids and training with them.
Do you ever see in young drivers something that kind of makes you smirk or smile because you see a little bit of younger Buddy Rice in it? You know what I mean? And now maybe you have a greater appreciation for those that were coaching or mentoring you?
Yeah, for sure. I got a couple of them that have done that. And then the year I ran Ferrucci over at Dryan and Reinfeld, we got a little bit of that, which was pretty awesome. I thought it was funny. So, yeah, you see some of those flares and stuff, and I think it's cool.
How much do you follow the race today? How much do you follow the IndyCar series in general? But just like, for example, this month of May in terms of the practice or qualifying, or are you too busy to keep an eye on it?
I check some of it out. I keep an eye on it, especially for the month of May, and like for certain some of the road course races that I think are cool. St. Pete, Long Beach. stuff like that. It just kind of depends. Obviously, I spend a lot of time right now over in the IMSA paddock with that stuff. But, it just depends on where they're at and what's going on. I watched, I would say, most of qualifying, I'd say. And I'll end up watching the race just to see what happens and see how it plays out.
Who impressed you in qualifying? I mean, obviously, Pelot's your pole sitter, right? And we know how good Pelot is. But is there a driver that you watched that you kind of raised an eyebrow and thought, this guy looks awfully comfortable on that track?
I don't know if anybody's like super comfortable right now with the way the weather was and, the way things were happening with the cars and stuff on that. Obviously, I thought Felix was going to be on the pole, but as comfortable as he looked at his first 2 runs, and obviously there was that missed it just by a little bit there or whatever. And, the other thing that's interesting is how different the runs were. And guys were just saying how, like, sometimes the car would take off, sometimes it wouldn't to accelerate. And also how different everybody was on how they used the hybrid. I was kind of shocked by that, but I mean, I think it's going to be an interesting race. I think it's going to be very interesting with everything, the deployment and the way you use stuff and strategy and stuff. So we'll see what happens.
Do you miss it?
Yeah, there's parts for sure I miss, but there's other stuff. There's other parts that I don't miss. So it's, it just kind of depends.
Well, you ran 6 Indy 500s, Buddy Rice, winning in 2004. That track in general, I've asked several drivers this, and it sounds ridiculous because they are all 9 degrees and 12 minutes. The dimensions are technically the same in that track for every turn. It is, I know it's an oval, but it's kind of a rectangle. For you personally, for Buddy Rice, which turn of the 4 is the hardest?
That's probably a good question. It's going to either be 1 or 3. And it depends on how you look at it, because 3, 1, just because you go into it so fast all the time, it's always protected. So you have a lot of speed going in. But the thing is with 3, with it being so exposed to the weather and having more wind is like a bigger issue back there. It just kind of depends. But normally 1's like the trickiest part. If you can get your car really comfortable in 1, that'll normally correlate to 3, and then 2 and 4 the next 2 in order. But I've obviously heard here in the last few years that some stuff's changed, or at least the way guys look at stuff is a little bit different, and there's a lot of different reasons for that, or a lot of variables that cause that. But I would say, for me, when we always went there, is getting through 1 and then 3.
What I find, and I just can't grasp, Buddy Rice, my guess, is seemingly you have to constantly be doing things in the car, whether you are, and I don't know that people realize that, you're processing, you're changing your weight jackers, you're anticipating. It may be a completely different feel in a corner than it was even 1 lap prior because of the wind or whatever it may be. Were there ever periods in a race where you're just kind of in chill zone and you're just kind of in a mode or in, I hate to say relaxed, but you get what I'm saying, in a rhythm? Or is it constant mental balance and work?
A little bit of both. I think there's some places we've been to where you can relax a little bit more, but that's usually because it's a fuel race, right? If it turns into a fuel strategy race, then things are completely different. Like we've had those at, let's say, like at Michigan and maybe at a Chicago or a Fontana, something like that. But there's, even the road courses, all that stuff that you constantly got to stay up on top of the car, because it is changing. The fuel load's changing, tire degradation's changing, like all that keeps changing. So you got to kind of keep up on it. And, I think these guys inside the cars have a little bit more adjustability at times. And sometimes I think they're like a little bit more stuck in a box. So it's, I don't know all the stuff they can do, but it kind of depends. But the more you're on top of it and the more you stay on top of it, I think the better you can keep your car more consistent. But, like they said, I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on, especially in the qualifying right now with all the hybrid and everything those guys have going on. There's a lot happening there, especially at that speed, and you're trying to do it the last minute.
Couple of last-minute things here, Buddy, that I'm curious about in the life of Buddy Rice, right? Because I've always, again, you were just a different dude when you were here, in a good way, not a bad way, right? Number one, last time you wore a flat-brimmed hat, I remember one time you saw somebody that had a curvature in the bill of their hat, and I think you actually wanted to have them persecuted for it. Last time that you wore a flat-brimmed hat was when?
Today. Okay. All the time. I've never not worn one.
Okay. Last time you wore a hat with a curvature in the bill.
Oh, God. I probably was a little kid. Like, you're talking like grade school, maybe.
Okay.
Before I learned that they came out with flat rims.
Okay. Last time you wore actual pants and not shorts that like were, for a while there you had shorts you wore that were like Skilo or whatever that rapper guy's name was. Last time are you into pants now, or are you still like the shorts to the knees guy all the time?
Oh, no, shorts to the knees all the time.
Okay. And now, do you still go socks to the mid calves?
Yep.
Okay. So basically what we're getting at is your fashion hero is Tony Hawk. Is that a fair statement?
That'd be all right. We're all from that same era. So, yeah. No, that's the 90s were rocking back then, early 2000s.
Okay. Last concert you went to?
Oh, last concert I went to.
Or best concert
Pennywise.
You went to?
Pennywise.
Okay. Is that the best concert you went to?
Yeah, well, I took my daughter's first concert was at Pennywise too, so yeah, I would say so.
Okay. The last time that you wore, and maybe it's daily, it would be for me. Last time you wore your Indy 500 winner's ring?
Oh, long time.
Really?
I don't wear that. Yeah, no, I don't wear that. Nope.
Now, I'm not going to ask where it is, but do you know where it is? If you had to go right now and put it on within 30 minutes, could you do so?
Yeah, it's at my house here. It's with the baby Borg and everything else. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's cool, right? It just strikes me like if I won the Indy 500, I'm the first to admit. But then again, I love me some me. I would have a tattoo on me that says I won the Indy 500. Please ask me about it, right? How often, other than this interview, how often do you actually talk about the fact that you're an Indy 500 winner?
Not very often. No. I mean, it just depends if someone recognizes it, if someone brings something up that gets discussed here and there, but no.
I just love it, man. I'm telling you, you were right. When you won it and you said, it changes a lot of dudes, but not me, I didn't know it then, but I probably in the back of my mind thought, I'll bet in 22 years this guy's still wearing flat-brimmed hats and just chill, right? Just chill, which is cool. So what's next on the schedule? You're not coming here for the race, correct?
No. My daughter's high school graduation is on the deal next for Friday.
Very cool. All right. Well, enjoy that. Enjoy the open house or whatever comes with it. And if anybody asks, you should wear your ring to the open house for the graduation because it is race weekend. But we certainly always enjoy catching up with you, man. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
All right. Buddy Rice joining me on the program, the 2004 Indy 500 winner. That was the year. It was such a crazy into that race. And we had a period there where you did have some rain-shortened or rain-affected races. And in that particular year, Buddy Rice was a fascinating guy because he was in his second Indy 500. He was driving for Eddie Cheever. They could not have seemingly been more opposite of one another in terms of just personality, just the way of going about it, right? And he just always had that. He did. I mean, what he's talking about, he always looked like he was getting ready to go to a skate park in Southern California, which I kind of appreciated about him. And I remember when he went to the White House after winning the 500, and seeing Buddy Rice at the White House, in front of the front lawn in a coat and tie was kind of funny, but just a laid-back dude, definitely a laid-back dude. And I just personally think, and maybe it's because of the era I grew up or because I grew up here, but it would be such a unique thing to say that you won Indy. I just think it'd be a unique thing to say you won the 500. Now, Caleb, have you figured out whether or not you are or are not going to the race?
I am going to the race. That's the plan right now. I don't know if I didn't tell you this, but I was at qualifying on Sunday, and that was my first time really being at the track and hearing an Indy car go by me. And
did you get a chance to go down towards the pits?
Yes.
So were you in the pits as they went? It's the only, and you will experience this, don't get me wrong, I don't know if you saw many opportunities on Sunday, obviously, to hear when there are multiple cars on the main straight simultaneously. Just
that is still yet,
and
I'm waiting for that moment.
But, and be honest, I will not be offended in any way, shape, or form, but I want your honest opinion. For those that don't know, Caleb, whose voice you hear there, filling in for Eddie, grew up in Ohio. You attended college here in Indiana at Ball State, but you grew up in Ohio, and you have not had that experience necessarily of being around the track during your upbringing. As you mentioned, that was your first time over there. We call it, and I totally understand it. The sport itself is very niche. The event is massive, but probably 85% of the people that are there because they celebrate the event, and the rest of the year they don't necessarily follow the sport. But the word is, or the cliche is, that when you go there, that's when you catch the bug, right? That's when the bug bites you and you realize, then you're like, I get it. To quote Dario Franchitti, one of my favorite quotes, when he won Indy the first year in 2007, and he got out of the car, and I remember him saying, I understand now. He got it. He didn't at first, I don't think, but he got it. So I know that's a big buildup and a lot of pressure there, but give me your overall thoughts the first time you went out. And if it is to say it was built up more than what it was, I understand that as well.
It's funny you bring up that story. I did not know that story, but that was literally, I was texting my dad and some of my friends. I was like, that's literally what I said. I was like, I get it. I get why it's such a big deal and it's so cool. And like, I'm, again, never been on race day, nothing. That was just literally qualifying. And you just start to understand why it means so much, why it's not just really race day. It's the 3 weeks leading up to it. It's all of it. And, I honestly have no idea what I'm in for on Sunday. I think you've communicated that to me. Others have. So it's going to be a whole new experience. But like, yeah, man, like just hearing the car go by for me was like, wow, this is really what it's like.
What time do you plan on leaving? Now, Sunday you're going with how many people?
I think like somewhere between like 6 to 8, maybe.
Okay, so you're in a group of people.
Yes. Nathaniel, don't call me Atticus Finch, his group.
Your seats are where?
That I think is yet to be determined and ironed out.
So you don't have a permanent seat. Are you doing general admission?
I think that's going to be the plan. Okay. Also, like work things, there's chances to enter in contests here to get tickets. So,
what time were you planning on leaving to get there?
I'm doing Indiana Sports Talk the night before, so it'll be past midnight before I go to bed, and then Nathaniel has communicated to me like, hey, like this is a 5 a.m. Maybe even before or a little after ordeal where we got to get out of here and we gotta get in line to get into this thing. So I understand that it is going to be quite the day.
He's right. And I'll tell you something, Caleb. When I was your age, and that sounds so weird to say, right? When I was your age, back when I was your age, I don't mean it that way, but, I have a great appreciation for you, for Nathaniel, for, Eddie, I mean, all, James, all you guys, because it is not long ago to me at all that I was doing exactly that. When I was working at Channel 6 and I was doing, I was the producer, I was whatever they needed me to do. And it was the thrill of all thrills, not just for the Speedway, but for the Colts or whatever else. If I got a credential to something, it was like, I still have them all, right?
Yeah, I know that.
And so I can appreciate what that means, and I can, and I think myself, I think probably John, there is an element of you guys are critical to what goes on at this radio station because you do a lot of the different things that need to be done. But I also think that in any line of work, whether it is somebody that's an accountant, whether they're a doctor, whatever it may be, I think it's important to have the generation that's below you, and I mean that in terms of age-wise, right, era-wise, but the next generation. It's important to have the next generation around you to be able to see and experience again the excitement and the newness and the horizon, the frontier that comes with each different level of your careers and the exposures that happen for you, because that's what awakens and reawakens and reinvigorates for somebody when you've been through it a number of times, because just when you start to allow things to be routine, it presents to you the authenticity of what it means to still be chasing that carrot and what it means to still have appreciation for opportunity. And my opportunities have long gone. I mean, I get that, right? And, you know, I'm between turns 3 and 4 here. I know that. But to be able to see guys that are just going out for the first opening lap of qualifications for the first time is, to me, rewarding and exciting. And at the same time, in any line of work or business that you're in, it's extremely valued and important. So anybody that's listening that is working in a job right now where they know where they want to get, but they don't know exactly how to get there, part of that process of getting there is, in fact, creating and still exhibiting the examples for those who have gotten to the point where they wanted to be and are still unsure of exactly how it happened for them. It reminds you of the fortune you have when you allow yourself to witness that journey again that you went through. And so in that regard, I'm thrilled for all of you guys. And it is Nathaniel's correct, man. It is a long day. It's a long day, and it's a long process, and it's just like everything else. You will eventually look back on it and go, man, those were the days. Like the days of eating the penguin caffeinated peppermints with Dave first and passing them around in the garage area just to stay awake because it was 9 a.m. and we'd already been there for 5 hours cutting tapes and chasing interviews and whatever else. I loved it. In the moment, I was tired, but I look back on it now, and I'm like, those were the days, man. Those were the days.
I appreciate that a lot. It's going to be a lot of fun, man. I wish I could be on the show to talk about it, but Eddie returns next week.
Having said that, I'll get there about 10 o'clock on Sunday.
Lucky you.
I got to sleep in, right? I got to sleep in. Christian Rasmussen coming up later in the program.
Query and Company on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Rain songs all day. Get it out of the system. Get it out of the system. And then we'll be clear for the weekend. Clear for the weekend. We'll give away some numbers later in the program. I know that John talked about this a little yesterday, and I agree with what he was saying. And I typically, on this program, try to avoid, and maybe it's the wrong strategy. I mean, John does too. I'm not saying that came out the wrong way, as if I'm saying, like, I don't do it. We are a local sports talk radio show and a local sports talk radio station, meaning the majority of our topics, in my opinion, should be local. Now, obviously, there are those sports stories of a national standpoint that transcend into what it is that we do. The Super Bowl, the NBA Finals, the Heisman Trophy, the Kentucky Derby. I mean, I get it. But we have a ton of local sports going on here. And so there's plenty to discuss at all times. And I think most people are aware that there are those crutches that when you do sports talk radio that are almost eye-rolling. Who's your Mount Rushmore? Call in now. In Indiana, the running gag has always been class basketball. Should they have made the change in Indiana? Call in now. Should Pete Rose be in the Hall of Fame? Call now. These are the sports talk equivalents of when you are a DJ back in the day and you were hydrating for the mini, and so therefore, as a result, you drank 10 gallons of water before you came into work and didn't plan it very well, and the restroom's actually on the other side of the building. That's when you play Stairway to Heaven, right? Here's Bohemian Rhapsody on loop. And the same thing for when you do what we do. So sometimes when there are topics that are, you know, I get the fact that by the time you turn on this program, big national stories you've heard about all day long. Everywhere you turn, there are certain things that are just ubiquitous. You can't get away from it. And everywhere you turn around, people are talking about it, and it becomes exhausting. And I used to think when I first was doing what we do, I used to think, and I still to an extent believe this, that when you have the microphone, you have the luxury and to some extent the responsibility to be a voice for those that don't have one of their own. I do think that can be utilized and should be utilized as part of the responsibility of what it is that we do. However, I did learn at one point in my career that when you, on a sports program, bleed and lend that self into then taking sides with or pontificating upon political things or offering your opinion on an election or things like that, it's not what people come to a radio station to listen to sports for. We live in a polarized and divided world where that becomes in itself totally exhausting, even if it's something that is of great interest to you. And so you turn to sports or you turn to Netflix because that's your escape, to get away from those things that otherwise exhaust you. And the same is true to an extent, I believe, about national storylines that you can find anywhere. And therefore, you're like, man, you know, whether or not Tim Tebow is really a great NFL quarterback, they've been talking about that on networks all day long for 3 weeks now. I don't necessarily want to hear that on my local sports talk radio station in Flagstaff, okay? And for those reasons, it does become, I don't understand, and that's why there's a dichotomy here. I'm straddling both sides of a fence because I'm about to introduce and discuss a topic that falls into that category. By now, you probably have heard so much about it. You're like, dude, I'm listening to this for Indianapolis sports. But it also offers the other side of it, which I don't get. And that is that I don't understand where it became the case. I think Stephen A. Smith is a very, very smart guy. Clearly. You don't become one of the leading writers for the Philadelphia Inquirer covering the NBA and transcending that into other avenues of sport and becoming an authoritative voice not only on the reporting but on your columnist opinions. You don't become that without being a very intelligent guy and a brilliant writer and observationalist and all of those things. And what befuddles me, what confuses me, and at times what fatigues me is, and this is me saying this, so keep in mind probably the hypocrisy there within. But if you are a journalist, and I know that that's a completely blurred line in 2026, but if you are a radio host, and in particular a radio host who has a background of a newspaper writer, the very first thing that you are taught, what did we talk about earlier in terms of, for the Indiana Fever, it's difficult for them to suddenly just say, we're now going to flip a switch and become lockdown defenders if it's not part of your habit. Habits lend themselves into realities. And it's very ingrained in you at a very young age when you get into newspaper writing, and it should be the habit that for 20 years then becomes the reality of your existence within the profession. And that reality and that habit is that you are not the story. You're not the story. People are not turning. In Stephen A. Smith's case, yes, they want to hear his opinion. That makes him a story. But when it comes to talking about the dynamics of an NBA team or the chemistry of an NBA team, to then start like challenging players and calling them out and saying like, I'll expose you for even more and et cetera, you now are making yourself part of the story, which is in total defiance of every habit you should have had. I get that he is paid for his opinion, but does that not exhaust people? And is it not counterproductive to the actual purpose, which is to accumulate audience and then retain them? I would think it is. Maybe I'm just seeing it from too close, but I'm curious if people enjoy that drama and enjoy that tension. And it's one thing if it happens with one player and it's an anomaly, but now it's like one player to the next, and don't challenge me and don't be looking at me the wrong way, and just on and on and on. And after a while, it's totally fatiguing, but more so than that, I just don't understand the delusion of thinking that in reality, people care as much about somebody who I know it. My job is to talk about sports and engage and interact in conversation. It is not to sit here and convince people of how they're supposed to think. It's to present my own viewpoint and then allow people to, with that, elicit their reaction or generate or be a starting point of conversation, but it is not to create gospel law. And it just seems like a counterproductive way of going about doing it. But at this point, it feels like it's counterproductive, and I don't get, if you're Jaylen Brown, why do you care? Jaylen Brown, by the way, I don't know if people know this or not, Jaylen Brown is like Mensa level, could be working, developing rockets for a living level genius. He is a whole different element of, Stephen A. Smith is an extremely bright guy. Stephen A. Smith is a fourth grader on the intellect scale compared to Jaylen Brown. Not even close. And I think Jaylen Brown is a wonderful player. I remember, and maybe I'm the only one that recalls this, but I remember one of the years in the NBA draft after Jaylen Brown, either his first or second year in the league, where there was rumbling. I don't know how legitimate, but there was speculation that Jaylen Brown could be on the trading block, and Indiana was one of those teams that could have been involved. It was the year they drafted Aaron Holiday, if I'm not mistaken. And it would have taken several players to get him. But I remember at the time I was driving to it was on the night of the NBA draft, and I was driving to Road America in Wisconsin. I still remember it. I was driving around 294 listening to the draft. And I think even then they said that Jaylen Brown was, there was talk with the Pacers, whatever else. And I almost drove into one of the 37 Brian Urlacher hair replacement billboards because I was so elated over the fact the Pacers might get Jaylen Brown. Wonderful player. I just don't understand what is the purpose of the constant spat. I think it's odd. Christian Rasmussen going to join us just a couple. We're going to do 4 more numbers other side. 239-1070, telephone numbers to give away. And when you call in, I'll let you know which numbers are available because they're filling in quick. We'll do it other side.
Query and Company on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
So do we have callers lined up for the numbers game, Caleb?
I think this song describes what our phone lines look like.
Do we have no female callers?
No female callers.
We need at least one female to call in for the numbers game, for crying out loud. Okay, here's how this works. I think people know it by now, but allow me to explain once again. I have randomly assigned every driver in the field of the 110th running of the Indy 500 a number 1 through 33. You call in, you give me the number that is of meaning to you, and you are assigned a driver. Should you get the winning driver, you will get a gift card to Chicago's Pizza, which is the very best. You can use it for their lunch buffet. You can use it for the family meal deal. You can use it at their 19 Central Indiana locations, the best. You'll also get a Speedway hat that will be the envy of all of your friends. And this is an added bonus that I came up with this year, okay? You will get a hero card. Now, if you don't know what a hero card is, it's like an 8x10, usually somewhere size like that, photo with the driver and usually some info about them and the sponsor name and whatever else. But I will get them to sign it for you that says that thanks you for being in the company and for being part of the team. And then you hang that on the fridge. And when you have friends over for the New Year's Eve party and they say, well, where did you get that? And not only are they impressed that you have the autograph of the winning 500 driver, but also that, and he's verifying you're in the company as well. And you don't have to wait till midnight to be kissed with that, right? So you get all that if you are the grand prize winner of he or she who wins the race. Should you get the driver that moves through the field the most positions, you will win a gift card to Chicago's Pizza. Well, Jake, what about if the person who moves the most positions is also the winner? Excellent question. But we like to be fair and balanced here for everybody to have an opportunity. So in that event, it would then go to the second biggest mover in the race. Tiebreaker being he or she that starts the furthest back. And then just when you think that all negates the chance that you might have the winning formula, if you will, you also get a gift card to Chicago's Pizza if you draw the driver that is the first out of the race. Officially scored as the first out of the race. Here are the numbers that are available, so if you're on hold, please pay attention. I don't want, when I read these numbers off, and then people call in and go, can I get 18? And I'm like, that's not one of them I told you was available. So here are the available numbers. 1, 4, 5, 7, 8, 11, 12, 16, 17, 18, 20, 21, 25, 27, 28, 30, 32, and 33. Those are the available numbers. If you're on hold, please have paid attention to those numbers. Who do we have first here, Caleb?
We have Matthew.
Matthew, how are you?
Hey, Jake, how's it going?
It's good, Matthew. You sound like you're having a peppy step to your day. You, Matthew, I like the fact you called in because on this gloomy, somewhat wet day, you, my friend, sound like instant sunshine.
Well, I'll tell you, side note, I started listening to the Brady Bros podcast. I got to the first episode of Hawaii episode, and my semi broke down, and I had to get a wrecker. Is that scary or what?
Wow. Well, listen, I don't know. You need to return the tiki to old Mr. Hanalei, right? There's the bat. And secondly, Matthew, I will let you know, Christopher Knight, a.k.a. Peter Brady, is coming in for the race. We're doing dinner tomorrow night. I had to change that from tomorrow night to Friday because of weather conditions for something else he had going on. Then I had to change it from Friday back to Thursday. We had to make reservations, see? And when he asked me how I was able to pull this off by changing on such a busy weekend the reservations at the restaurant 3 times, I told him it's under the name Doug Simpson, big man on campus. And he totally understood at that point. Okay. Matthew, what number would you like?
I do believe you said 28. That's my old racing number.
Oh, okay. Matthew, you got the guy that I thought did a heck of a job in qualifying, and it's unfortunate because he got started at the back of the field now, starting 32nd, but he technically was the fastest rookie qualifier, but he's not because they negated his speed. Kyle Collette off the board to Matthew. Who is next, Caleb?
Jason.
Hi, Jason.
Hello, I'll take 33.
Jason, I like that. You get right to the point, don't you? Like when you're a guy, when you're house shopping and they're like, oh, we can show you the lovely yard. You're like, no, I want to see the master bedroom. Let's get to it, right? I like it.
Exactly.
Number 33. Jason, how many 500s have you been to?
I've been to quite a few. My uncle used to be the ground superintendent.
Really?
So, yeah, I used to go all the time.
Did you ever sneak in when nobody else was around and just, kind of walk around and stuff?
I have been to the track multiple times when it's closed. I've been on rides where I've driven around the track.
Pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
have you ever been to Australia?
Amazing.
You ever been to Australia?
No, I have not.
You ever been to Outback Steakhouse?
Yes, I have.
If you were in Australia or Outback Steakhouse, apparently, do you know what you actually have to say when you're ordering a beer because it's Australian for beer? Do you know what that is?
Well, it's not Foster's, so I'm not sure.
Louis Foster is off the board. Louis Foster, starting in the outside of row number 7, goes to Jason. Up next, Caleb.
Let's go with Jeff.
Jeff, you'll be the last in our round. No, we'll do 2 more. Jeff, here we go. What number would you like, Jeff?
Hello, I'd like number 11.
Number 11. Jeff, are you a Colts fan?
Yeah, I had season tickets for 26 years.
Did you happen? Well, why not 27?
Because when they shifted to the new stadium, we got stuck at the back of the end zone, and we had second row seats before that, so it wasn't worth the money.
Jeff, I'm with you on that. Okay, if you saw their schedule release, I don't know, did you happen to see the video the Colts put out this year for their schedule release?
No, I'm driving too much.
It was, Jeff, they actually connected with and partnered with a popular animated television show. That show, Caleb, would be?
The Simpsons.
Correct. Kiffin Simpson inside of row number 3 goes to Jeff, Kiffin Simpson. And the last in this round would be who, Caleb?
Let's go with Brian.
Hi, Brian. What number?
Number 1.
Number 1. Brian, how many races you been to?
I'd say 30-ish. I'm from Speedway, Indiana. So.
Oh, Speedway City, as they used to say back in the day, right?
Yep.
Brian, just out of curiosity, you ever been to, you like baked potatoes by chance?
Yes.
You do like baked potatoes? Do you know where they come from? Like when you go to that Five Guys and they say where your fries were made, what state more often than not they usually say that the potatoes are from?
Idaho.
Oddly enough, when I was in Boise, Idaho, I was at a Denny's in the middle of the night and ordered a baked potato, and they said they were out of them. I was livid, and I told them to go check the backyard. But also from Idaho is Stingray Rob. Stingray Rob, who starts inside row number 11, is off the board to Brian. That's how we do it. I can't recall, Caleb, Christian Rasmussen, 2 or 2:30?
It's 2.
So the other side, Christian Rasmussen joins the program. Hey there, Jake Query for Surfside. Look for the can with the sunset stripe. Surfside iced tea and vodka lemonade. The blueberry lemonade has been huge so far for Surfside, and it is outstanding with that little splash of vodka, but no carbonation, so smooth. And you will love Super Light and the 4 beverages of the sports drink Super Light. Perfect for the outdoor activities you're going to enjoy for the next couple of months. Surfside, look for it wherever you buy your favorite adult beverages. Please be 21 and please consume responsibly. Hey there, Jake Query for Game Day Men's Health. GameDayMen'sHealth.com is the website. It is the very best in terms of guys getting you back in the game, whether you're talking about peptide therapies, helping out in that recovery and just giving you that extra energy, or testosterone therapy, which is so important. If all of a sudden you're just feeling that midday drag, you've got that stubborn belly fat, whatever it might be, then testosterone therapy could be for you. Weight loss injections, all of it available at Game Day Men's Health and available in a game plan that is designed for you, not a one-size-fits-all. That is the critically important thing. They want to make sure they're doing something that is best for what you want and what your goals are. Find them online and see everything they have available at GameDayMen'sHealth.com in their very efficient clinics in Avon, Carmel, Fishers, and Greenwood. In and out in an hour. Super great folks. Avon, Carmel, Fishers, and Greenwood for Game Day Men's Health. And that appointment for a free consultation to find out what they can do for you. That's Game Day Men's Health, GameDayMen'sHealth.com.
Query and Company on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You know, a pina colada has just a little touch of sweetness in the flavor, right? Which is what we love about pina coladas. I do love a pina colada. You know what else adds a little bit of sweetness to any beverage?
What's
Splenda.
that? Yeah.
And Splenda is on the side pod. You better look at it quickly because it's going to go by pretty quick. Of Christian Rasmussen, who joins us on the program. He starts outside row number 5 for ECR coming up in the 110th Indy 500. Christian, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm probably like you. I'm excited that it's upon us. From my standpoint, and I'm curious from yours, I really look forward to Carb Day because I feel like at that point, after the practice, like everything's, and I know this sounds crazy, but from a broadcast standpoint, that everything's kind of done. All the auxiliary stuff, all of the commitments, all of the events are over with, and now it's time to get to the fun part, which is the race itself. What about from a driver's standpoint? What is the mindset?
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. That being said, man, Carb Day looks kind of wet, to be honest. So we'll see if we even can get it in. Hopefully we can. Sunday looks a little threatening as well, but hopefully there's a window where we can get the race in. But yeah, no, it's good. You know, we're getting closer and closer. You know, it's only that one last and final practice that we have before we head into the race. So it's nice that it's finally upon us.
You know, you have run this race twice. You made up 12 spots in both races. You have brought the car home higher than where it was that you finished twice in both of your races. What have you learned in your first 2 Indy 500s that you feel like now for the first time you can truly apply to the race?
I think for me, it's just about, going into the weekend, knowing a little bit more what to expect. I think the biggest change for me this year was just having a better idea of what I want of both the qualifying car and the race car, which I feel like you can just kind of go a little bit more structured and focused towards, that end goal of the car that you want. So I think that's been the biggest change for me, man. Just having a better idea of what I want, which has just come from, running the race for a couple times now.
Interestingly enough, growing up, Christian Rasmussen, my guest in Denmark, it's interesting to me that you had success in Indy Next, notably, and in IndyCar as well, on ovals, because I think that we think that guys that begin racing from a European standpoint are strictly used to road and street courses and not necessarily oval racing. That seems to be a learning curve, pardon the pun, for a lot of guys. What is it about oval racing for you that feels comfortable?
Yeah, I think part of that too is I think a lot of people obviously see that I am from Europe, but I'm kind of a special case when it comes to that. I did all of my junior categories here in the States, so I got introduced to ovals from pretty entry level stuff. So I did USF 2000 for a couple of years where we did IRP. I did USF Pro 2000, where we both did IRP and St. Louis, and then obviously my 2 years of it next. So I had quite a bit of experience running ovals. Obviously not from go-kart level or from my very young career, but still a decent amount of time. But yeah, I mean, I've obviously taken to ovals quite well. I love the racing that we do have on the ovals. I think it's some of the best racing product that we have. You don't really see it anywhere else where you're able to run basically side by sides for multiple laps in a row. And that's really what I think the ovals brings to the table, which I think is awesome.
You are in a unique situation. Christian Rasmussen, my guest, and let me explain what I mean by this, okay? You're starting in row number 5. Now, it's my assumption, Christian, and I don't want to misspeak here, but your countryman, Christian Lundgaard, I know you guys are on different teams, but it's my understanding the two of you guys know each other pretty well and are buddies. Is that fair to say about Christian Lundgaard?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
Okay, so you got Christian Lundgaard, who's going to be right behind you when the green flag flies. You're beside Castro Neves, who knows his way around this place as well as anybody, and you've got your
he's done a time or two.
That's and you got Ed, I mean, your owner and your teammate right there in your row as well. Do you talk to those guys at all before the race just about kind of what to expect? What is the protocol for drivers going into the race itself in terms of those you're starting near?
No, I mean that's not on my to-do list. Obviously, I talk to Ed all the time, but whenever the green flag flies, I mean there is 32 variables that even though they said one thing, something changes in front of them, which changes the whole approach. So you can plan as much as you want, but that plan goes out the window real quick when stuff happens, So, yeah, I mean, you can like I said, you can have a general plan, but it's not really worth very much. I don't have any plans on talking to those guys. Obviously, all of us have the same goal, which is first of all survive lap 1, and second of all survive for the rest of the race. So, yeah, we'll just see how it goes.
Okay, I had one driver, and you tell me if this is, and I got a feeling, Christian Rasmussen, I mean, one of the things about you, I remember in your rookie year, during, I think it was Carb Day, and I got on the intercom. I'm up there. I'm one of the people that calls the turns for the radio, and so I got on the intercom, and I think it was Nick Yeoman or one of us said, we're like, Rasmussen's fast. Like, this guy's fearless. You could just see it, right? So I think your style is to go for it. But I've had one driver, a veteran driver, tell me that on the opening lap, they're like, hey, we qualified in an order for a reason, and if you qualified one spot in front of me, then for the opening lap, you have earned that right for me to just fall in line here. Is there some truth to that, or is that, no, you got to go for it?
I have never heard that in my life.
Okay. You got to go for it then, right?
That's my approach.
Okay. Now, you are just behind, directly in front of you is Takuma Sato. And I love Takuma Sato, and I got all the respect in the world for Takuma Sato, but he is absolutely no attack, no chance. And I think Takuma Sato can be the hardest to predict when and where he's going to go. Do you think about that sort of a thing being behind him?
Like I said before, it's race car drivers are erratic. I don't think most of us know what we're gonna do anyways before going into the race like that, because there's so many variables, there's so many moving parts that it's just impossible to plan for. And I feel like a lot of the times you're driving your race car off of instinct anyway. So it's just one of those things that it's just kind of, we'll see what opens up on the lap, on the first lap of the race, and I'll probably just kind of make a judgment call from there. I think it's, like I've said a lot of times, it's just too hard to plan out because there's so many moving parts.
If there is a lot, and I hate to say it this way, Christian, but let's be real. Let's say that you guys go out for carb day, you get a full 2 hours in, maybe they even move that time up a little bit, I don't know, but let's say you get the full practice. And then there are rain showers on Saturday and let's say part of Sunday, but you still get the entire race in. How different is that track after any rubber that was laid down has been washed away and it's completely new at the start of the race?
Well, it definitely changes things. But on the flip side, I feel like we've gotten very used to that over the course of these couple of weeks of practice. I feel like we've gotten a lot of running in, and then it's been heavy showers. Then we've gotten some more running in, and then heavy showers again. So I feel like we've hit the track quite a few times on a completely green track. So it shouldn't be anything too out of the ordinary. That said, if that's the case, which it probably will be, I feel like we're gonna have a pretty big track progression throughout the race. So the way that your car feels like starting the race is probably not how it's gonna feel like ending the race. So I think that's gonna cause some interesting changes throughout the race in terms of how everybody's race cars change and maybe get worse or better during over the course of the race.
I think the last time that we talked to you, Christian Rasmussen, our guest, we mentioned Copenhagen, Denmark, which is your hometown. And I think you said actually that Copenhagen is the Carmel of Denmark, if I'm not mistaken, or something along those lines, because I believe you live there now. But so I want to ask you a couple questions just about Copenhagen and about growing up in Denmark. Is that fair?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
First, I'd like to know this. We did this the other day with Timika Harchik and had fun with it. Give me a couple of musical acts in Denmark that you listen to, that like you and your guys growing up listen to all the time, that you've always enjoyed, but they're not necessarily mainstream in the U.S.
So my Danish, my favorite Danish artist is probably a guy called LOC. He's a rapper, hip hop artist, and he was very big in late 90s, early 2000s.
Okay.
I listen a lot to him. I listen to a lot of Neon, which is another one. But I think a lot of the Danish rap artists from that early 2000s era are pretty good.
So Danish rap artists. Now, this is obviously all, can you say something real quick in your native language? And I would say don't swear, but I don't know that the FCC will know any different. But can you just say a simple statement in Danish and then see if I can figure out what you're saying?
Yeah. Hej, mit navn er Christian. Jeg gør klar den her uge til at køre Indy 500.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. So basically what you said is I'm on the radio answering questions about the Indy 500.
No, I said, hello, my name is Christian, and this week I'm getting ready to run the Indianapolis 500.
That's pretty cool. Okay, now
fairly close.
You began speaking English at what age? Because clearly you're beyond fluent.
I would say pretty early on. When did we get it in school? Like maybe like third grade. But we always had like growing up, we always had English speaking nannies. So obviously I've always been around English speaking people for a long time.
Did you ever have a crush on your nanny, like in middle school or anything like that?
No, I did not.
How many languages do you speak?
I would say 2, English and Danish, and then like very limited German. We had German in school, but I don't think I could hold a full conversation.
Still impressive. It's very impressive. If you win the Indy 500 and you get the swig of milk, and then you go home and the dust is settled and you've done all the interviews and you've done everything with it, and you know you're getting ready to go into this crazy week of requirements and then also getting ready for Detroit, and you say to yourself, I just want a meal that is my favorite Danish meal to feel like I'm just back home again. What is Danish cuisine?
I would say probably for celebration, I would say a jordbærkage, which is basically just a strawberry cake. But man, they're so good. It's like definitely my guilty pleasure, or whatever you can call it.
Okay, what's the name of that again? Jordbærkage?
Jordbærkage.
Jordbærkage.
Just directly translated to strawberry cake.
Okay, so strawberry shortcake, and then that goes well with milk. Get a little Splenda on top of it, and you're totally in business, right?
There you go.
Yeah, and you're going to be up eating it all night.
Enough.
You're tired, so in the morning you get some Java House to wake back up, and now you're good, right? So this is all good.
Right.
We've got this all figured out, Christian. What is the schedule like between now? Like, how much sleep will you get between now and the race itself? What is the actual, aside from the drivers meeting, the parade, and carb day, what sort of things do you have going on prior to the race?
Well, so currently I'm headed to the Walmart on 86th Street, close to Michigan Road, for an appearance. So I'll be there starting 2:30 and going forward. So if anyone want to come say hi, come do that. Then we are out in Fishers tonight at the Java House for a cafe visit. Tomorrow we've got some photos, media, another Walmart appearance. Friday we got some the driver meeting. We got pit stop competition, some more stuff out at the track, and then Saturday obviously we have the parade, which is going to be fun, and then the race Sunday. So a few things to attend to, but not too bad, and definitely will try to get as much sleep in as I can.
Okay, so here we go. We've got this just for you, Christian, and my understanding is this guy's a foul mouth, so my understanding is we had to search far, needle in a haystack to find the clean variation, but here we go.
That is, I know that song. It's not LOC.
So you're familiar with this song? No, that's not LOC?
No, wrong artist.
It says featuring LOC, Christian.
Oh, featuring. Oh, okay, fair enough, fair enough.
He makes a
But it's
cameo
not
in this,
original.
apparently.
Yeah, it's not an original.
So,
but yeah, it's definitely Potty Mouse. You're wrong. You're right about that.
Is it? No, are they English lyrics? Because I think we can swear in Danish on this show. I don't think anybody would know the difference, right? We'd be safe there.
Yeah, Danish lyrics. I mean, I think 90s gangster rap, just in Danish.
Are there gangs? Are there gangs in Denmark?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, yeah, there is.
Okay. Okay. Here we go. We got one more. Is that right, Caleb?
Yeah, that's the one. That's a good one.
Okay. This guy sounds like a tough guy, doesn't he? That guy sounds gangster, is what he sounds.
Right.
Okay. All right.
Man, he tries to be.
From the mean streets of Copenhagen. That's LOC. All right, Christian. Again, 2:30 today. Tell me where you're going to be at 2:30.
Walmart on 86 in Michigan.
Yep, that's right. Okay, and then Java House in Fishers, which is a great location. That's later today at the Java House, you said?
Yes, that is at, when are we going to be out there for, drum roll, 5:30 to 6:30.
5:30 to 6:30. All right. Christian, we wish you the very best, man. I know that you have been really good at this radio station. We certainly have enjoyed having you on, starting 15th in the Indy 500. And as I mentioned, in your previous starts, you have never failed to bring the car home even higher than where you started. Certainly wish you the best of luck and, most importantly, a safe run in the Indy 500.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks, man.
Christian Rasmussen joining us on the program. What about that Neon, Caleb? Do we have Neon?
Yeah, let me go find some Neon. Bro, the featuring LOC, that was like the only clean song I could find on first glance.
Well, what you ended up pulling up there was like Barney. You know what I mean? That sounded like he made an appearance on the Muppet Show in Denmark, and that was where his featuring was. That fascinates me, the music of different cultures fascinates me. And additionally, two things about music that I've always found intriguing. One of those being that you hear somebody, why does Elton John not have a British accent when he sings? Why did George Michael not have a British accent when he's singing? I've never understood that, number one. And number two, Michael Jackson or Prince. I recall once being in an Uber in, I've got to think of where it was. It was a foreign-speaking country, and not a foreign-speaking country that has a lot of English spoken. I know where it was. I was in Bratislava, Slovakia. And I say Uber, it was a cab, but it was basically an Uber. But the driver, Prince, was playing on the radio there. And I remember thinking, it shows the universal language of music, but Prince or Michael Jackson or Madonna or U2 that are worldwide, and they're enjoyed and sang along to by cultures that don't speak that language. It's bizarre to me to an extent, because you can play right there the LOC and it sounds pretty good, but I have no idea what the guy's saying, and there's no way I would be able to sing along with it, probably even if I sat there and tried to listen. It's like listening to Rosetta Stone with instruments in the background. Did we get Neon, Caleb? Do we have Neon?
Bro, I don't know who this Neon guy is. I can't find anything right now.
I got the impression Neon was a band.
Okay, who is this band? Because I'm looking up Neon Denmark music on the internet, and I'm hearing songs in English, so I don't know.
Well, that might be. I mean, Neon might be bilingual, right? It's possible,
I guess.
I'm going to look up Neon the band. Hang on. Is it band or he? I can't recall if he just said rapper or band, though, for Neon. Neon Denmark musician. That's what I'm putting in.
Musician. Okay.
Okay, here we go. Neon refers to a few different musicians and projects from Denmark, most notably Neon Capital.
Neon
project.
Okay.
The project of Danish producer and songwriter Martin Bosch Escherbach, and Neon Machine, a Copenhagen-based indie power pop trio. Now, which one do you think he was more talking about? Neon Capital, the project of the Danish producer and songwriter, or the indie-based power pop trio?
This is Neon Capital.
Okay.
This was...
yeah.
This is the beginning of the song. Do you want me to skip?
I feel like I'm entering into like a long hallway with lasers. Right?
This would be good at a.
This is not explicit, right? Because she's speaking.
No E that I see on the song here.
Okay. Now this is Neon Capital.
Neon Capital.
Okay. What about Neon Machine?
You're gonna have to give me.
I think Neon Machine's a little more techno. I would think Neon Machine's a little more right.
Let's see here. Neon Machine.
Smoke machines going along with the Neon Machine.
This one is called Ghosts. Okay, ready?
Ghosts. Okay. Scary. Okay. Here we go. Oh yeah. So far, so good. I like. Not bad, right?
Oh.
All of a sudden it's become Starship. Okay. We built this city.
Yeah.
We built this city on. Are they going to get a traffic report from Copenhagen here in a second?
Yeah, this is good bumper music, man. We should have used this on the intro.
Do they start singing at any point?
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't see the lyrics button usually
So
shows
this is
up on
the
my
machine.
Spotify.
They just do.
There is no lyrics here. So I think it's Neon. What was the first one? Neon Capital.
Neon Capital.
I think that's.
Oh wait, we have. Hold on.
There's a third.
No, I heard lyrics there.
Oh.
Yeah, there we go. Okay. I almost feel like I'm in some Zen place here, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to go with Neon Capital is the one that he likes better.
I agree. That's a little more to LO's, closer to LOC.
It does
too.
say here the name is also utilized by a few other local Danish DJs and electronic acts. So I don't know.
A lot of neons running around Denmark.
Yeah, well, it's that Northern Light stuff, right?
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Should have asked Christian.
They got neon lights up there because I don't know if you know this or not, but in the wintertime, 23 and a half hours of darkness. I think that's actually Sweden. But it might be Denmark.
Yeah, we should probably look that up, too.
Does it make me sound like the dumb, naive American that I just assumed that Sweden, Denmark, Finland, and Norway are all just one big state?
Oh, yeah. No, that's what I'm right there with you. I don't know which one's where.
Well, one's kind of phallic on the map, right? We know that.
Yeah.
And then the rest of them are they're all kind of hanging around up there.
Uh-huh. They're all good at, in the Winter Games, the Olympics, they're all the same to me.
Stockholm, I think of Sweden as the more prominent country, but Copenhagen the more prominent city than Stockholm. Also odd, I realize. Chip Ganassi confirmed 1:30 tomorrow, by the way. Chip Ganassi will join us tomorrow at 1:30 on the program. He has the pole winning car, Alex Palou, in the race, along with Scott Dixon and Kiffin Simpson. But when we come back into one thing we discussed earlier that needs to be fixed, and there's a couple of hours to fix it still, but the deadline's looming. I'll explain next.
Query and Company on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Sounds like the perfect song for just the mood of outside right now, right?
We're almost there, Jake. We got one more rain song before the end of the day to get this out of the system.
We're trying. Doing everything we can. Push the system out, right? That's the key point here. Just move the system along. Keep going. Go rain all you. Listen, either just hover over Columbia, Missouri and flood it, or, I mean, not literally. You don't want people losing them. Or just keep moving and just go rain all you want over Pittsburgh. Native of Pittsburgh, Chip Ganassi, program tomorrow. Back into the fever conversation in just a moment, that they kind of need to get something jump-started here. And maybe tonight they do it. But I do want to check in on this. A couple of things. First up, do you happen to have, Caleb, please, the breaking news sounder? This just in, Eddie has sent me a message, Eddie Garrison. Eddie, as you know, had 6 flights during his big extravagant trip out west. He called this morning. He actually raised a very interesting point. He called me this morning and said, I have a question. You travel more than I. I said, okay, proceed. He said, why is it when you're sitting at the gate, they say we are accepting volunteers to check their luggage, and if you check your luggage, the reward is you will be allowed to be the first to board the plane? And he said, isn't the entire point of boarding the plane getting your overhead compartment secure and getting a spot for your bag? Excellent point. Excellent point. But he did relay to me, as he is currently in Denver, there were some storms in Colorado that were causing some issues with his flight, his connecting flight from Denver. Now, why he wouldn't just get a connecting flight from Denver, I don't know. But it is my understanding now, Eddie has secured to me, that because of all of these cancellations, and I'll give him credit, this guy's a hero. This guy's a hero. He's like the guy that had the fire extinguisher randomly at the intersection of 38th and Michigan when I got into a car crash, and I turned around and he goes, you want to put out the fire in your car? Sure. He's just standing with a fire extinguisher. It's like out of nowhere.
I didn't get to say this last week, Jake. I feel like, you always talk about, cornerbacks and offensive linemen are like sunglasses and phone chargers. You can't have enough of them. Yep. We should add fire extinguishers to that now. You can't have enough of them.
Never know when you might just have a fire extinguisher rolling around in the car. Some guy gets hit in his Jeep. Yeah, here you go. Okay, we're good. Hero. Now, Eddie's a hero because this is what he just messaged me, and I feel for him, but I commend him. He's on the flight leaving Denver. They had some travel snafus. They didn't think that they would get to their connection, which I think was in Minneapolis, I think. I'm not certain where he said it was. But because there were cancellations elsewhere, and I guess yesterday was a zany day of travel, they needed volunteers. Eddie's party got split up where Eddie's significant other and her family that he's on the trip with, and maybe this says something about what they think of Eddie. Eddie is now actually on his way back on a bus. He's busing from Denver. Now, I can't imagine that there'd be anything worse in the world than picking yourself up a ride, and nothing against the bus folks, but to go from Denver to Indianapolis via bus, that's 50. I've done it in a car. It was like 15 hours. I think now we're looking, Eddie's hoping to get back in time for Carb Day, but he voluntarily allowed for everybody else to travel on, took the voucher, and now they got him a bus ticket, and he is now riding a bus back. So he's somewhere probably around Salina, Kansas right now. Maybe Waukene, Kansas, where I got my very first speeding ticket.
He can watch planes, trains, and automobiles on the way.
That's exactly correct. Exactly correct. Now, when he gets back, and then perhaps during the incredible amount of time that he's going to have, and I can only imagine the stories he's going to have about, and can you imagine being the poor guy sitting behind Eddie if you're wanting to see through the windshield? Forget about it, right? I mean, you can't even play the billboard game. Well, I was going to play the billboard game while I'm riding on the back of this bus for the 21-hour trip to Indianapolis, but unfortunately, I'm sitting behind Jupiter. That alone would be some hassle and some headache. But while Eddie's doing that, perhaps he's checking in on our baseball challenge, and I can just go ahead and run the numbers for him right now by letting him know. our caller, Dylan. And again, we each got to pick 2 teams. Total wins amongst the 2 teams at the end of the year wins our challenge. We have no actual prize. Bragging rights. Dylan, our caller, took the Giants and the Athletics. He went basically straight Bay Area, which is cool. Giants with 20 wins. Athletics have had a good year. They're at 24. He has 44 total. Eddie got out to a roaring start. He took the Pirates, who got out to a great start. He took the Diamondbacks. Both of them right now, 24 wins each. He's at 48. I was much maligned and a little snickered towards by taking the Chicago White Sox for my sentimental value. 25 for the White Sox. Then, and that was my first pick. Then in my second pick, I thought to myself, this team's good every year. Every year this team is good. They're never bad. The Cleveland Guardians, 28 wins. I am now 9 to the good on Eddie and 5 to the good on our friend Dylan in our little challenge. A challenge tonight for the Fever will be against the Fire. That is a 7 o'clock tip at Gainbridge Fieldhouse, 6:30 on our sister station, WIBC, where you can listen to the pregame. I agree with what I heard J&V talking about yesterday, and it's true. The thing that the Fever need to get taken care of and do so quickly. I've heard a lot of criticism of Stephanie White and how she's playing Caitlin Clark. And I do think that Caitlin Clark does offer challenge about her because, and challenge is the wrong word, but scrutiny. Scrutiny is the better word. There's going to be scrutiny in any way that what you get out of Caitlin Clark in terms of her production and how you're utilizing her because she is so unique as a talent in general. And if you just hand her the keys and let her go a la Isaiah Thomas with Indiana and you just have at, you're going to be critiqued for that. If you try to corral her within a system, you're going to be critiqued of why are you not letting it loose? It's kind of no win to an extent. I think offensively they figure that out. Clark is such a unique offensive talent and such a versatile offensive talent that takes care of itself in time as players become instinctively familiar with where each other are on the floor. The thing, though, that they need to figure out, and it does somewhat come with familiarity and instinct, again, of knowing where the other one is. And maybe that's what the challenge was because they had so much backcourt attrition a year ago. They have not had time to gel in this area, and that is their perimeter defense for the Fever is bad. In the games they've lost, it's been bad. Now, it's been okay when they've won, but you can't give up nearly 58% from the floor and win games. And that's what they're averaging giving up in their 2 losses. That's why they're losing. They can score. We know they can score. And it's great and it's fun and it's exciting to see 100-point games. But you have to corral defensively the opposition and at the very least make switches or fight through rotations and be aware of reversals, whatever it may be. You've got to collapse better on the perimeter or else you're going to be in trouble. In addition to that, as I talked about, I think James Harden is a great basketball player. I would be a fool to say otherwise. But I don't think he necessarily makes people better. And I think to an extent he can be detrimental because not only is he not a great defender, he has no interest in even pretending to be a defender. The New York Knicks last night, and if you have any question about whether or not Indiana can continue to compete once they are full throttle, and we'll see when that happens with Tyrese Halliburton. And the full throttle for the Pacers moving forward may be 90% of what it once was before because maybe full throttle for Halliburton is 88% of what he previously was. And you have to make up for that in other areas. I don't know. What I do know is this. And what I do know is I look at the East and the susceptibility of backcourts in general amongst the East means Indiana is automatically a player, especially when you have Zubats there that now knowing in particular that Halliburton may not be at 100% for a while and doesn't have that burst. So if he doesn't have that burst, what do? You have to create the burst by creating opening for him or clearing areas for him, and that's where a big that can set screens comes into value. And that's where people are going to say, Zubats only had 12 last night. They gave up for that? Well, yes, but Halliburton had 21 and 6 assists because he was able to spring free from the impact of having a space creator there. Having said all of that, Indiana, to me, a year from now, is still going to be a contender in the East, assuming they are healthy, because of the fact that you have susceptibility on the perimeter for Cleveland in particular, and to an extent in Denver just because of Brunson's size. No knock against him. I think he's a wonderful player. I really admire and respect Jalen Brunson in the way he plays. But we see already that Indiana was able to defeat that, and that was with Miles Turner and not Zubats going up against Karl Anthony Towns. But Harden last night, New York looked at it and said, we've just got to basically attack where the turnstile is. Why in the world are we trying to enter the department store through the area where the wall and the guards are when we could just go through that turnstile and, it takes a half a second to stop and let it go, but boom, it's just going to let us waltz right through. And that's exactly James Harden as a defender. If you want to know what James Harden as a defender looks like, if you've ever seen the scene in American Pie when Finch is having to run to the bathroom and Stifler opens the door and just says, right this way, sir. That's James Harden defensively. I'm not saying the Fever are to that point. I'm saying that is an example of how when you have that kind of susceptibility on the perimeter, that makes you so vulnerable regardless of how offensively gifted you are as a player or as a unit. And that's one area they're going to have to take care of. J&V's on remote today. Is that right?
That is correct. We're getting him hooked up right now.
We will catch up with J&V, find out where he is, what he's got cooking. We'll do it all as part of the crossover brought to you by the good guys at Love Heating and Air. Love-HVAC.com is the website, 317-353-2141.
is Query and Company on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Nice job, Caleb. We got all the rain songs out of the way today.
All of them, man.
Never have to worry about it moving forward, right? All good from here on out. I mean, we got one of the members of the Brady Bunch is going to be here singing Sunshine Day, so we're all good.
You excited for that tomorrow?
Is that tomorrow night? And what's tomorrow?
Thursday. You're having dinner with them, right?
Correct. Yes, I am looking forward to it. We're doing the last row party as well, so I look forward to that. That is actually not the last row party, but the front row party in, I don't remember what year. That's where Shannon and I met.
Oh, wow.
Well, I mean, we had met, but I threw some game, and, here we are, right?
The whole thing.
JMV is at Pivot, the bar and balcony up just across from Gamebridge Fieldhouse. Joins us now as part of the crossover brought to you by the good guys at Love Heating and Air, love-hvac.com. John, what's on the big program today?
We are loaded up today. Actually, we have tickets to a future Fever game that are center court, and I'll explain that coming up a little bit later on. But we got a couple of former winners, and Will Power and Ryan Hunter-Ray. We've got I think Tony East is not going to slide by, but he'll be on. I think James Boyd's going to slide by on his way to this game. So this is the perfect place, Jake. It really is. And even with the weather like it is, we're on the inside, but it is still basically 75 or so steps right across Pennsylvania, and you're in the field house. The pre-party place is right here at Pivot. Great time and stuff to give away.
I'll be curious, John, when you talk to Hunter Ray about this. Ryan Hunter Ray had made no bones during practice. I thought first he should have won the race a year ago. He was leading, and he was in really good position a year ago. But he's with a very good team in that Arrow McLaren team, but he made no bones about the fact that he just still felt like he needed to get a better feel for how his car is in traffic. And then the weather didn't cooperate where really nobody got a chance to go out there and do that. And I don't know that they will a whole lot. I hate to say this on Friday. So I'm curious to see where he is with that car because I like that dude a lot.
Yeah, not only that, but I was thinking about Will Power in terms of his new team. And I think we're past, any hard feelings, I would guess. Maybe you never get past that of your old team. But with a new team and the lack of success that they have seen so far, what they're finding and what they hopefully will find coming up this weekend, because he's a tremendous part of that.
John, one of the things you and I didn't get a chance to talk about, we've talked a couple times, but obviously I've been zigging while you've been zagging for the last couple of days. We were not able to console one another on the heartbreaking, gut-wrenching, Oregon-tearing-out loss of our Buffalo Sabres, our devout Buffalo Sabres against the Montreal Canadiens, right?
Well, my son is a big Canadiens fan.
I know.
So I think I kind of, but I felt horrible for Matt Godbout and Jake Vernon, guys we know very well from here that are within that Sabres organization, and Rob Ray, who's been on this show a number of times. Did you see that Rob Ray actually pounded that drum, that ceremonial drum that they do before every game in Buffalo? He pounded the drum there before the start, and it is a cruel and unusual way sometimes that, and believe me, we've seen it around here recently, but the way Buffalo has been dismissed in big situations, it's more than just generational, which is odd. And that was just another way they got dealt with the negativity going back a couple of days.
I still felt like that goal counted for them, but I realized we're like probably.
Yeah, the whistle blew or something. And I thought it was, and then they'd have moved on then. So, good year for them, but it's tough to have a good year. Like we're so focused on if you don't win, if you finish second, you're the first loser or whatever now, and nothing else matters besides winning. And sometimes that doesn't. That you forget just how far that organization came. And I don't know a lot about it either, other than this season has been groundbreaking.
Yeah, it was
for
fun.
That Buffalo Sabres team. Yeah,
obviously I'm a little tongue-in-cheek about my diehard fanaticism, but that's who my buddies and I got on board with and watched, and they were fun, and so gives me something to watch next year in terms of the NHL. All right, John's up next. Pivot Bar and Balcony. John, we'll throw it out to you in just a couple here, okay?
You got it, pal. Thank you.
All right, JMV, Will Power, Ryan Hunter-Ray joining him. Chip Ganassi scheduled for tomorrow, possibly Alex Pillow, but that's kind of in flux. We shall see, but we will give away numbers tomorrow as well, and I thank you for listening to Query & Company.